And welcome to Straight No Chaser. This is going to be an audio video podcast with three hosts on it. I'm Jake Nielsen, in Boston. Not anymore. I'm actually in New Hampshire right now. Um, Anyone else care to take over?
Hi, I'm Abhi Patel. I as well uh, am from New Hampshire. I attend school in Boston. Really excited to get this podcast going.
Hi, I'm Alex Svensson. I also go to school in Boston at Suffolk. I live just outside of Boston, Arlington, Mass. And I'm new to this podcast, but I'm very excited to see where it's going.
Yeah, exactly. And the idea behind this podcast is going to be that we keep it more conversationalist. Abhi and I had a podcast before, and it was a lot more kind of just giving people information without talking on it and deliberating. So we're going to focus on that a little bit more in this show.
We sounded
Our,
like stiffs, basically.
Yeah, exactly. That was the problem with it. We
Yeah.
wanted to have it be more of a generic flow, more as you would like have a
More
conversation
natural.
with your friend.
Yeah.
more of a flow.
Yeah. So our first topic is going to be on the race riots, and just riots in general, I should say, that started in Minneapolis, Minnesota. George Floyd was killed by a police officer, Officer Chauvin, and he kneed on his neck for 8 minutes and 49 seconds. There's a little bit of irony because if you remember, Alec Kaepernick kneed for the American anthem, and now this officer legitimately knees on this man's neck,
You
killing him.
call it Kaepernick, by
Yeah,
the way.
Colin Kaepernick, by the way. Um, but yeah, so if you guys want to go into it, I'd love to hear your takes.
Yeah. I think it's uh, it's a really hard problem to address because it's really like deep. It's like deep threaded into American history. So like a lot of people right now are advocating like they're like hey, even if you're not black you should be advocating, but like how long is it going to last? Like it's another I feel like for a lot of people it's just another social media trend and it's going to fade. And then who's going to continue advocating after that, you know?
I think those are the ones who are going to make the real change, though. The ones who
Yeah,
do continue
exactly.
to advocate. But you're right. It's a lot of people are just taking it as an opportunistic point of view. Alex, what do you think?
Well, I kind of, yeah, no, I kind of see that because it does seem like, I mean, this has really been happening for so long. Like there's cases of it happening in the '90s with Rodney King and the LA riots, and it's become like people have just become so desensitized to it, and especially if you're white in this country, and especially if you're rich and white, you kind of don't really realize how minorities have experienced this for so long. But it's just because it started really getting filmed a lot in 2014 or 15, I believe, with Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. That kind of started what now became Black Lives Matter because a lot more people were filming it, and it did. You kind of have a point. It seems like there's a ton of people talking about it. It becomes this big trend, this big craze, and then it's like it fades away until it happens again. And the
Yeah.
question everyone poses is why we don't want this to happen again. We're sick of this happening. We don't just want to brush this aside. We want real change. And the one thing I feel like that I have really seen with this recent case of George Floyd and then also Breonna Taylor is that it seems like the rioting has become so, and not just the rioting, like a lot of the protests and the movements and the peaceful protests as well as the rioting, have become so widespread across the country. Like it's been in every 50 states now that they brought so much attention that it does seem like now people, because we are in the midst of a pandemic, so it's like all the attention now is put on this. So it really it seems like people are trying to reunite around a change. Like as
Yeah,
you see, like in Minneapolis, they're already trying to. They apparently just voted to defund the police department completely. Or I don't know about
that was another
completely, but
point too.
they want to
I
remove it
agree
or
with you.
something.
The big thing is that the country seems way more united around this. Like, there's probably what millions of people protesting. I would say probably over 2 million people that protested, and then in addition to that, it was all over news coverage. And the one thing everyone's in agreement with, I noticed, is like everyone agrees what the officer did is atrocious, and like that's a step forward because even like back in the '90s, you would, and not even that long ago, you would have Fox News hosts that would be like, "Oh, this isn't a symbol of like police departments and police brutality on a broad spectrum," but now like the conversation's actually changing on what they need to do to change police departments, and that was like a big shift that I noticed, and I took that as positive.
I agree.
I think another huge benefit of all this is it's outlining how terrible our representation in government in the country really are. Like, no politicians are really stepping up to really address the situation properly. Like, they're all using it to increase either division or increase their likes for their next campaign. And like politicians in America just like don't really on a federal level don't really do much anymore. For this issue with police departments, that's all local government that's gonna have to solve these issues. It's all like city councils, governors, state reps.
Agreed.
It's where the real work gets done. And people are starting to realize that now because of all this. So I think that's a good pro coming
I
out of
think the
here.
other point that needs to be mentioned at least is that like a lot of people generalize the peaceful protesters too and the rioters in one category, and that was kind of one thing that I didn't agree with because like I kind of generalized too in the beginning of it, but then you have to realize that rioters are a much separate group than people because everyone should have the right to protest, and it's actually a really good thing for discussion across the country.
Yeah,
Um, and rioters, if you're like looting and destroying private property, like I do have an issue with that. Not to say that like it's not warranted to make someone's voice heard, but at the same time, I do still have a problem with it. And I think when you generalize those two groups together, it's very counterintuitive to the whole movement. So I think that newscasts should actually try and differentiate the two and like point out the fact that they're not the same groups and that the protesters have even tried to stop the looters.
if
No, I
if you look at uh some like the other side of the coin behind rioting, we also just had like 3 months of a national shutdown where like some people couldn't work. Depending on what state you're in, some people didn't even get stimulus checks for like a month or two. So like there are some people that like might actually have needed to take advantage of those riots to just put food on the table.
yeah, I was gonna say I think yeah, the rioting, honestly, it's kind of just like a natural reaction because people are like fed up with this. It's been something that's going on for a while, and they just kind of like all their anger and emotions are letting loose. And like, you honestly, any, you don't see any like significant changes in the past without a little bit of violence. Like even like people always bring up the civil rights movement and MLK, but there was like race riots in Birmingham, Alabama, like in the early
Yeah.
'60s, right before MLK and in other cities as well in Atlanta, I believe. And so I believe the race, it may not be the right path, but I do kind of sympathize with the people because, like Abby was saying, also a lot of people are poor, and this is kind of an opportunity for them to kind of just like yeah, like I said, like get kind of make the best of it. But like, at the same time, you do have people who aren't even because, like I said, you can't really group the protesters together
Yeah.
with the rioters and stuff like as one thing. And especially what you have to be able to differentiate is the people who kind of just want to take advantage of the situation for their own personal good. So I know, like in Boston, for example, the majority of the people were peaceful. There were some confrontations between police where I've actually heard many police have gotten a little violent, so they kind of
Yeah.
wanted to defend themselves, which is definitely another case. But then the case I also want to point out is people who kind of just are coming in from the suburbs, just trying to like take advantage of the situation. Like I know there's a lot of rich white kids who are coming into the city just trying to like cause problems.
That's the
And
other point
that's the
too.
kind of thing that I think is very sad because it really kind of it's just giving a bad name to the people who are actually out there, who are actually angry, and the Black Lives Matter protests who are just trying to get their voices heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing I want to mention is like if you look at this through a deeper lens, I feel like it's actually kind of a point that this could lead to like if people were actually focused on what mattered, I feel like it would actually become a class war instead of like becoming about race because like Amazon backed the Black Lives Matter movement and like Nike and Apple, but like do these companies actually care about these people who are out there protesting? No. They just want to increase sales. They might have gotten a few stores looted, but like at the end of the day, they just want to be like on the side of popularity because they want to keep people at the same level they're always been at. I think that's like a big point. Is like if you look at this, I think it's more strongly associated with class warfare than people think. That's kind of just my point. And like I hate when big companies try and back all these causes because like if people actually woke up to what the real problems in society were, they wouldn't be focused so much on like these like maybe they would be, and maybe race does have an element that plays into it. But at the same time, I feel like they'd hold these companies to way more account than they do. Where these companies try and act like they're a hero in all situations.
I agree with that. I think especially that's why the thing is like I don't condone people like looting bigger companies, and I don't think it's a good idea because a lot of the people that these big companies employ are minorities, immigrants, like people of lower incomes, like you were saying. But I have still less sympathy than like the small business owners who are trying to recover from like a pandemic and then they're getting looted. I think if they're gonna attack anything, they got to go right to the government buildings themselves if they really wanna have their voice heard.
Yeah, but you're gonna get fucking thrashed if you try to riot at a government building. You
Well,
know?
yeah, but at the
Like,
same time, we shouldn't be using police and like to like attack protesters. Like this isn't a communist authoritarian regime or
yeah,
like a
that's true.
fascist country. Like
I
this
mean,
is
it's
people have the right, even if it gets a little violent. The point of these cops is to keep the peace, not come in with like mace or whatever they have,
if you look at our
tear gas.
police though, they're
Water field.
very highly militarized. Like
Yeah, that's
they
part of the
get
problem.
they get uh we have military equipment that gets manufactured that doesn't go anywhere. What does the government do with that? It goes to police departments. So
Yeah,
now these cops are getting these like high grade weapons and like military grade training, and like they're just antsy to use them. They get amped up to use that shit. They want to enact what they have and what they've learned when there's really no purpose. Like in a lot of other countries, police are a fucking joke because like the community doesn't have anywhere near as much respect for them because they're not that powerful. They're meant to just keep a tab on what's going on in the community, and
yeah, but
that's
I
really
wouldn't
it.
say that they're not respected. I feel like in Europe people respect the police,
Well,
but
it
it's
depends
more,
on where you are. Like
or
some
in East
countries
Asia
just,
definitely.
yeah, Asia. Like I know in India, cops get almost no respect. South
That
America,
yeah, I
they
mean
don't
that's true. I
either.
mean there's people in Europe who don't really respect them because they think you can get away with anything. But I still feel like people like obviously like if there's like a violence at like a sports game or something. But I think people still know that. I feel like people still think like our police in our country may get respect, but worldwide they're considered to be crazy. People think our police are way too overarmed and undertrained, which is part of the
Yeah,
problem. Like
Yeah.
in
Other
Europe, they
thing
just
is like
de-escalate and they
the
just
other,
kind of try to actually keep people safe, not like use force whenever possible.
that's the other problem
exactly.
I have with police is like a lot of these guys are like coming back from serving in the military, and then they have like really post traumatic like stress experiences that they've had in their past. Like, why would you strap a gun to that guy's belt, give him more responsibility and more freedom than anyone else in your society to make very brash and sometimes irrational decisions that cost lives? Like, you should have a police force that is not military armed and has to work within the confines of the law, just like every other citizen does. And they
Yeah.
should have committees in every city, like Killer Mike suggested, or review boards that look at every incident where a cop kills a civilian and
Well,
make
the
sure that it was a good use of lethal
No,
force.
I think it's smart.
the main point I was trying to get at was like this militarization of police isn't really necessary because the job of police is to maintain a community. It's to stay informed on the community and like keep it protected. I know in certain areas you probably do have to militarize police just because like there are certain parts of America where like gang war is pretty open, like out in the open. There's a
Yeah,
great show on Netflix about it. Dope. Dope's a great show. They show the addicts, the cops, and the dealers. It's intense.
agreed.
It's a docu series. It's not like made up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so SpaceX just sent two NASA astronauts to to the ISS. It was the first private commercial flight in the United States that sent NASA astronauts anywhere in space, which was a huge accomplishment for not just NASA but SpaceX as well. So basically, how it works is NASA buys seats for a certain amount of money. I think they paid 80 million per seat to send their astronauts up to the ISS, and NASA was very happy with the whole way the mission went. So the mission was a success. SpaceX has the technology of recovering their stage one boosters. Have you guys seen these things land on like the ocean
Platforms, yeah.
carriers or whatever they're called? That's
the
wild.
aircraft carriers.
Yeah, that is honestly
The
so cool.
engineering behind SpaceX is like so beyond like human imagination. Like, who could have ever thought they could launch rockets then land them again? Like, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
It is wild. It's
Like-
absolutely nuts. So I think the coolest part about it too is that this is the first commercial private flight in America that's sent anyone anywhere in space. So like this is kind of like the new frontier of what space is going to look like for America. It's going to be private companies that send you up for a certain amount of money. They're probably going to work for the government because they did this project for 1/15 of what it would normally cost NASA.
Well, the International Space Station opened up to tourism, to like public tours last year. We did cover this in the previous podcast, but I think this SpaceX flight launch is pretty much like the opening. It's like opening of the floodgates to being able to tour the International Space Station.
Which is like so cool.
Yeah, it's pretty
Who would have
crazy.
thought that would be happening in our lifetime? I
Yeah.
thought
Yeah.
people didn't give a shit about space anymore, if I'm being blunt.
It did seem kind of weird like that, but I feel like Mars has been like, because like, you know how the target was originally the moon? Well, first they just wanted to go to space, right? That was back in the Cold War, the space race. And then that was Soviets with Yuri Gagarin managed to eke that one out. But then we were the first people to send that a man to the moon, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin. And then, so I think the next step after the moon was people want to go to Mars. And that, I believe, at least, is what Elon Musk has talked about before, setting
Go
up.
to Mars. He wants to colonize
Yeah, I was
Mars.
gonna say setting up a community on Mars.
I mean, it's great.
I mean, it could work. It could work. Just the thing with Mars that's bizarre is that, I mean, A, it's further from the sun, so it's colder. So you're gonna always need. I don't know how the oxygen difference is. I mean, you're gonna need
What
some
happened?
sort of breathing mask, but it's colder. But since it's smaller and further from the sun, I believe that means the days are shorter, but the years are longer.
If I get to go to Mars, I'm gonna become the first space pirate.
I think the days are 18 hours. I don't know how long the years are. I forget.
Yeah, but it would be
Might
more
be
days
right.
a longer year because it's like
I
further
saw
from the sun, but then smaller. So it's only
The
a little
coolest part
smaller.
though is since its atmosphere is thinner, it actually gets hotter during the day. So when the surface is facing the sun, it's actually hotter than the normal temperatures on
Yeah.
Earth.
But it
But
also
like
drops to like
desert.
But it
below
drops
zero.
below zero because of
Drops
how
really
the
quick.
atmosphere is. It has like much more varying degree shifts based on what time of day it is.
Like it's pretty much like a big desert. It's kind
Yeah,
of
it is.
I saw a video actually on like what theoretically what would happen to a human body, like how it would evolve if it were to live on Mars. They they would change due to the like atmospheric, or they would change due to the environment so much, like they wouldn't even look like us anymore. Like it
really.
they said since the gravity is so much lighter, their bodies would get longer. They'd have much longer limbs, much longer legs. Uh, yeah, I think,
So they'd be Shaq.
yeah. Also, like, they wouldn't be able
Yeah.
to, they'd be able to move around easier on Mars. It'd be hard for them to move around on Earth because of the strength of the gravity here compared to Mars.
How much different is the gravity? Because isn't Mars only a little bit smaller relatively? So it must just be like a little bit lighter.
I'm guessing it's a noticeable difference.
I mean, it's definitely noticeable. It's not like the moon where you're in like slow motion.
well, like if you're like the first generation born there, I guess like it would definitely be hard, I guess, to live
Yeah,
with
I was
our
like
kind of
curious
conditions.
how it would be because I know like in the moon the
They'd
gravity
look
is
like
way.
aliens. They'd look completely different, I think.
Yeah. I'm just wondering for like a normal person from America to live there, how much they would have to adapt. Because I believe you would need a breathing apparatus to go outside.
Do
You'd
normal
always,
people only come from America? Is that?
I said the Earth.
Oh, okay.
Nah,
I don't think he
but
did, but the Earth
I
is
will. I'm
definitely
pretty sure. Dude. But I'm
it's a good
saying,
correction.
I mean, we're the only people going to space, I guess now.
Well,
But
yeah, I kind of want
Well,
this to be
anyone that
like
can afford it, really.
yeah, well, I
want
mean,
the
there's
new
been other
space race.
countries who've sent. I'm pretty sure.
China
They
to go to war with
has
us for
China sent
space.
stuff to space before,
They
right?
might have, but like I want the new
France, I
space
think,
race.
has actually. France has. I'm pretty sure.
History 101 has a great episode on China.
Yeah, I saw it. How China
Oh
got
my god, it's crazy. The amount
really
of their
nuts.
economy boomed between 1960 to now is insane.
Their government's actually much more competent than ours too.
Oh
It's
yeah. Dude,
close.
they're building infrastructure across the entire continent.
I know the
It's pretty
Belt and
cool.
Initiative.
Yeah. I like that. A lot of people think it's bad. I don't.
I don't either, only because dude, China as a country actually gets stuff done. Like
If
most
China
other,
rolled out a military on those highways, every country and their mother would have drones on that right away. Like, so
yeah,
like I don't get what the big danger is behind that.
same. I don't really see China. I see their government kind of as an adversary because they're like a communist authoritarian
I'm
regime,
not
but
a
like
fan of their government at all.
same.
Say,
But
Because
like
but
they,
their
they're-
government, I'd argue, is definitely doing more for their country than the American government is doing for America.
I think it's more competent than our government. Like I've seen, they put like billions and billions of dollars of resources into AI innovation.
But then
Like our
again, we get
government
free
doesn't
speech and like
subsidize
a
it.
lot more personal
Yeah, and
freedom.
also like they have. If you look at the territorial land grabs of China, it's kind of unreal. They're trying to colonize the entire South China Sea. Like they go to like sandbanks and they build islands and build military bases
Like
on there, like
Dubai.
right up in Vietnam, Philippines, like right up in that area. And they're sending
Yeah.
rockets over to Taiwan. They're putting like military force against Hong Kong. Like honestly, for me personally, there's four countries that just like are constantly aggressive in the world territorially and militarily. And I'm not even talking about like North Korea because they don't really.
Turkey one of them?
Turkey, Saudi
Yeah.
Arabia, Russia, and China. Those four.
Dude,
Because
Turkey's always at war with someone. It's kind of
yeah,
weird.
that's how Russia literally, despite the fact that they literally had like a huge empire, and then the Soviet Union, which conquered a ton of land and invaded people, they're still trying to make land grabs in Ukraine and like Georgia and like various.
Russians, I think I get it for Russians because if you look at Russian history, literally every single generation, millions have died off from either
Yeah,
wars or like
that's because
Chernobyl or like
Chernobyl was in Ukraine.
Stalin. Like every single past of these like last 5 generations, like millions of Russians have died. Like
Now that I mean, yeah, that's true. But that's also this is what they get themselves involved in. Though they've never had a good
pretty
government
insane.
since like they existed. Like
what
who's been the
Russia?
last great leader of Russia? They've all been like
What are
horrible
you
people.
talking
Catherine the
about? We
Great.
have one right
Catherine
now,
the Great was pretty
That was
awesome.
so fucking long
And
ago,
like
and the Russian
yeah,
Empire was still
dude.
terrible, dude.
back like before Otto von
What
Bismarck.
The
what are you
Russian
talking
Empire
about?
started pogroms against Jews. They were
We
like the OG
literally have
anti-Semitic country.
a great Russian leader right now, dude. Vladimir Putin is one of the best leaders
A
I
lot
in
of
the
to be
world.
fair,
Russians actually do like him.
I was gonna say he's really popular in
He
Russia.
also did re-legalize the right for a husband to hit his wife and crack down on like
On
I
LGBT.
mean,
anti-gay
if we're talking
laws.
about the best world
Fine,
leaders, we're
still
talking about Bolsonaro, Trump. We're talking about
King
Vladimir
Salman,
Putin, Xi Jinping,
Boris
and who's the
Erdogan,
Johnson,
and Boris Johnson, and who's the guy in Turkey?
Erdogan.
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 What about King
That is
Salman,
the
Saudi
yeah,
Arabia prince?
Bin Salman too. Yeah, Prince Bin Salman.
So
Those
See,
are our seven best leaders.
this is what our news should be about. Like, what are those psychos doing? That's what our news should be
yeah,
telling.
see, that's what I'm most
Like,
interested in because they scare the shit out of me, or they
yeah,
just piss me
legit.
off.
Those
Because
people are
people
like
always want to,
scary.
In all
yeah,
seriousness, though, I think the best leader right now is Macron in France. I actually think he's like a
you think
moderate.
so?
He's a little bit more conservative, but like
He's
at the
not
same
bad.
time, he's not bad.
No,
I
he's
think he like
pretty,
keeps everyone in check.
classically liberal, like libertarian,
Yeah,
almost in a way, at least like free market capitalist he is.
I think he's kind of been good for France. Like I've looked at his policies, and it's just trying to get France's economy like
He's
out of
trying
turn.
to unite the country a lot more because the socialists and like the National Front hate each other. So,
Yeah.
I
Narendra
think New
Modi
Zealand's
was
leader has been good.
Narendra Modi was doing great for India until he started like openly like segregating against Muslims. Now it's a little off the rails.
How do
He's
you
gotta
They
gotta
always start
reel it
doing
back
great
in a
for their
little.
country. Look
how do
at
you
look
feel
at
about that?
Energy
Tell me
Star.
how you feel.
I think up until recently, he was a pretty great president. Like he established internet infrastructure and like running sewage throughout India. There are still places without it, but he made it much more commonplace. Like internet access pretty much reaches almost every part of India now. Besides like super off the grid tribal villages, like India still has that.
Yeah, there's a lot of people.
Yeah,
It's
it's
hard
just
to get a
huge.
billion people. That's the thing. When you get a billion people, it's gonna be harder to get people to like
Yeah,
interact and connect,
I've
and that's why
actually
you're gonna get more bizarre people. Like, 'cause
I've
they're just
stayed in one
isolated.
of those villages before. Like, so they have cars and like mopeds and stuff that they can take a main road into the city with, but like
Yeah.
the village is just so secluded. Like, it's in the middle of the woods, and then like there's like 7 buildings, and like it's like a family compound almost, you know?
That's kind of interesting though.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
life there is very, very different. It's very hard to get infrastructure like that everywhere, and the fact that Modi was able to do that is, I think it's pretty impressive. He should be commended for that. But after that, now
I
he's
mean,
like creating detainment camps and like kicking people out and shit.
if you look at throughout history, there's a lot of leaders who started off doing great things for their people and economy, and then it ended up not turning out
Yeah,
so well.
he's taking kind of a scary turn right now.
I feel like
I'm not liking the direction he's
the
going.
Asian countries right now are like in socially where the 1930s Europe was. Like where they're
Yes.
putting
Some
people
of
in
them, not Japan
camps
and
and they're
South
like,
Korea though.
yeah, but like China and India, like what are they doing putting people in containment camps and like
That's-
re-education facilities?
I mean, dude,
like,
what are we doing putting
this is
people
like
in cages at the border though?
that's
Dude,
Yeah,
true
we
too.
have
Actually, that's
detainment
fair.
camps too.
Yeah, but that's
Joe
Trump though.
Arpaio.
Like, are we gonna like try and
Show
act like
our
Trump's
bio, you're
like
right.
any other
Yeah,
modern
but
day
we
leader?
still have detainment camps here
Dude,
in
Trump
America.
thinks like
That's
Trump
pretty wild.
honestly thinks we're living in like the 1950s. Like that's
Trump-
like where
that's
Trump's
fine.
mind is.
Bro, that's the thing.
No,
Yeah, and
because in the
Biden's not gonna make it
1950s,
better, in my opinion. He can make it a little better.
No,
but
the
I want-
funniest thing is that picture of him holding the Bible in front of the church. It's upside down and backwards. The
Yeah.
reporter
It's
asked
all-
him, they're
it's
like,
all-
"Is this your Bible?" He's like, "It's a Bible."
You can tell he's never read a fucking
the
word.
difference is in the 1950s, America was like educationally a forerunner in the world. Like kids were
Exactly.
learning like serious math in like middle school and high school. Like we learned we learned like pre-calc maybe by the time we graduated high school, and like Asia and Europe they learn pre-calc like middle school to beginning of high school.
Yeah.
Like
No, I think
America in the
America.
50s was like that,
I think
but
the
Trump
United.
Trump doesn't want to bring that back.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like the
Like,
United States hasn't been like the forerunner in at least on like education, infrastructure, and healthcare
like
and those
40,
aspects.
40 or
Yes.
50 years.
Well, I think the last time we were the forefront at anything was like the 90s when Clinton was president. I think since then, even with Obama, like Obama tried really hard, but I don't think our country was never at
Kept
the
getting
top since the
stonewalled
90s.
by his Senate, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah, because of McConnell
By
and
Mitch McConnell. The
Just-
Obamas tried to do so much for education, but this
exactly
Congress
and
would just
healthcare.
not let them get anything through.
They didn't
I
want
agree.
anything.
I think modern day Democrats make a lot better presidents than, and just like administrations in general than the modern day Republicans. It's just
I
me,
mostly agree. At least
I
I'd
think-
say, yeah.
I actually don't think Trump's done the worst job with foreign policy. I think the China
Yeah, it
trade
could've been
was
much
actually overdue, in my opinion. I think we should have had a harder stance on China.
Also,
I
I'm glad that
disagree.
he's.
We should be opening up trade
Well, I don't
I-
like
I think
NAFTA.
we
with
should open
the
it up.
all
wasn't a good
Asian
idea.
countries.
NAFTA was Bill Clinton's worst passage.
Yeah,
Like, that was the worst act I
Sanders
got.
opposed
I think
NAFTA too.
One
and
one
Trump.
bright side of this trade war is that now countries like Thailand and Vietnam and like Laos and Cambodia, they're seeing more economic investment because countries are turning to them for cheap labor.
Yeah.
Vietnam has like almost slave rate labor in their manufacturing plants. Their workers went on strike, but they have like the cheapest manufacturing in the world because they pay their people like
They make
slave
no money.
They make like pennies. They make pennies.
Yes.
Do you guys watch that Dirty Money episode on Peru? How all the drug money gets siphoned through Peruvian gold? Like all the big drug empires set up.
I've heard of that. I don't know if I've
They
ever
set
actually
up
watched it.
companies that operate in Peru where they're like gold exchange, and then they sell their gold to American companies who are trying to buy gold who don't ask questions, and then they wire it to a bank account in America that puts like the amount of money that the gold would be worth, and then that's how they launder their money. So it all goes through Peruvian gold.
Brought
'Cause
to you
apparently
by
Peru-
every Swedish bank in the Hong Kong Shanghai Banking
Swiss bank.
Corporation.
They're the bankers.
every Swiss bank.
the bankers.
The bankers.
There's only Americans that
Bankers.
use those two countries.
Yeah.
They're nothing alike.
Bankers.
Oh, the Wall Street
bankers-
bankers.
If you guys want to know how I feel on this coronavirus, bankers are a very oppressed group. I feel like people have had it out for us for a very long time. We haven't done anything wrong. I think we need another bailout, actually.
Banking. To be a genius in banking, you gotta create a formula on a computer, and then you tell other people, "Hey, this debt I'm buying, you should pay us for it. You should buy it. I'm gonna chop it up into a new package. You're gonna buy it from me. We're gonna make money for our stockholders."
Derivatives.
Yeah. It's like, will I ever get my money back? Who cares? Don't you want to make money right now?
Yeah. That's true.
Banking.
Banking.
How exciting.
What a great job to have.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun.
You do
But
it
yes,
well. You do it
Somehow this came from SpaceX. We got here.
Yeah, we got here from. I don't know how that happened.
It just
We
happened.
kind of went off the way for real. I think we're ready for
Have
a
you
new
guys,
topic.
going back to SpaceX, have you guys seen Ad Astra?
No, I have not. I've heard.
So there's this scene that was Brad Pitt's space movie last year. I think it's a really good movie, but there's this scene where he's an astronaut for America, right? There's a scene where he has to take a shuttle to the moon base to get debriefed on his mission, and the moon base is crazy. What it's like commercialized. Like it's like a tourist hotspot vacation center on the moon, and they have like a Subway and Domino's and Quiznos. It's like an airport.
You can tell it was an old movie when there's Quiznos there.
Yeah. I don't think there was a Quiznos, but it was a bunch of places
Quiznos
like
is
that. There was
dead.
definitely a Subway.
Oh,
But-
yeah.
Like it was wild to see like corporate America, or like there were also like Chinese companies and stuff too. It was like a global project, but it was just wild to like we are headed in that direction right now. Like this launch with private companies and private tourists, like
Mhm.
that's exactly where we're headed. So it's pretty crazy.
I think it's gonna be ironic when they slap like an M&M's label on the side of like a SpaceX like
Yeah.
rocket. That's just gonna be funny. I'm gonna be like, what are they trying to
They
do?
stand up looking like a NASCAR car.
Yeah,
with,
on the
snow
rocket.
going
Yeah.
on
On the rocket, there's like a big circular number, and that's just like all sponsors, like GoDaddy.com.
They're like in the cabin. They're like cracking open M&Ms. Like, filtering.
They already started doing that shit on planes, so it wouldn't surprise me.
You start having advertisements before I ride in the Dragon capsule. I like a Pabst.
It's like I don't always drink beer, but when I'm in Falcon 9, I drink Sakis.
He is the coolest man in space.
Oh, that would be kind of sick if you were in space and you can just like toss it up the shot and just catch it in your mouth.
Yeah, that'd be
Okay,
pretty
dope.
For some reason, I feel like it would go all over your face, though.
Mm,
Like, I don't
yeah,
think it would just
splash.
stay in one straight line.
I
Yeah.
don't
It is
like
kinda
when
cool to
things
see
are all
both
over my
forever.
face. I don't like having things all over my face.
Are you sure about that? No, I feel like if you splash it out like this, it will end in one line. You can get it.
All right, I think that
That's what I would
exhausts SpaceX. I don't really know.
Yeah,
You guys-
it's a interesting direction the world's headed in with space. I think one
Right,
more
it's one
thing
of
I'd
the
like to
positive
add.
things coming out of 2020.
Yeah, yeah, one
Honestly.
of the very few things.
You know what's funny though? I was gonna say, I was talking about this with one of my friends. Is all this bad shit that's happening in 2020? might be kind of to teach the world a lesson.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't have that
What
much
is
faith.
that philosophical,
Yeah.
fucking spiritual
No, it
bullshit?
makes sense because it makes a lot of sense. Pandemic hits, right? So many countries weren't prepared for it. Like, very few, like New Zealand, actually, New Zealand as of today is completely free of coronavirus. They don't have
Okay,
any
yeah,
more
but
cases.
if there's
But
one thing
most,
all this has proved, it's how bad our government is and how no one in our government wants to address the issues.
exactly, which is why it needs to change. And
So
that's part
that's
of the
why I
change.
don't have much faith.
No, I think
I
that
don't think.
shows really how incompetent the government and the leadership in
What
this
I have
country
faith
is.
in is
Same
that
thing with the
America
racial
has
relations.
tons of business opportunities,
No,
which is awesome.
I think there's definitely a lesson to be learned about how our government handles like disasters like that, and how there's still an issue with systemic racism in 2020. That's why I feel like if there's anything
That's
that
true.
comes out at the end of 2020, it's two big changes, and like because of those tragedies.
No, the problem I have with if I can like put my three main problems with the mainstream media is one, they only cover the presidential race. Doesn't that bother you? Like, why don't they follow actual
Should be
local
more
elections or
state stuff.
federal?
Yeah.
Like they don't. Like, and I actually think the second
state
problem is
elections.
that all those companies are owned by major conglomerates. What is it? Three major conglomerates or parent companies that
I
own
think
like
it's
all of
4.
media.
The media,
Four.
no, the media
That's a
is
problem.
5, I believe. It's
There's
5
a
or 6, but one of
no.
them I
It
think is
used to be
collapsing.
6 when we were
And the
seeing.
third problem
Yeah, it
is
was
that
6, and then one got bought out.
those people don't speak their mind. That's my third problem. Is because they're all paid out to just tout the party line, no
They're
matter
super
which side they're on.
Yeah. There's
And
a
that's
lot of legal
those are the
reform
main
that
three
we need.
problems. That's the main three problems.
And
With
our government needs to start busting up conglomerates and companies that are getting too big.
I think
But
media
it's
is
not,
overdue for a busting up of the whole industry, in my opinion.
not going to happen anytime soon because of super PACs. I
All right,
don't
I know
think.
that. Yeah, it's 5. There's 5 big media conglomerates. Actually, these are the 5 companies that own all the media. It's Time
They're
Warner.
controlling media.
It's Time Warner, Disney, Viacom, News Corp, and GE. They're the
Yeah.
5 companies that own all the big media.
And they want to keep you dumb and happy and eating
Pretty
your
much.
food and
That's
staying
why
on
our
your
media sucks. But we have the
Media's
internet.
terrible.
And any like station you think, well, there's still independent journalism. Like I believe Vox and Vice aren't owned by any of these guys.
Well, there's Vice was created by HBO, which is owned by Time Warner. But the thing is, Vice is very independent. There's
Yeah.
another great independent news source called Axios. It's based out of Washington D.C. That's so they started on HBO just like Vice did, but they're newer. Oh my god, amazing! They're the only news group I've seen that had a one-on-one interview with Donald Trump, like a private one-on-one interview. It's pretty cool.
See, like what I think's so overdue though is why isn't there like an app or like a website you can go on where you can see all your local politicians from every part of the state, every part of the U.S., and then like it could just be pitched as like a one single place to go and get just general information. Because if
That
the
would be
public
sick.
actually knew how to like vote properly, like you wouldn't have a need for all these major conglomerates that just stuff up one election. Not even like a bunch of different candidates. They just stuff like 3 or 4 candidates down your throat, and that's it. I'm so sick of watching those coverages. Like I can't watch CNN, I can't watch Fox, and I can't watch MSNBC. They all suck. CNN's a little bit better than the other two, but let's be real. Yeah. Bloomberg, NPR, what's the other one? BBC. BBC is pretty good for international.
I think of the big ones, the least biased that I've seen, but I still prefer them for local news, is CBS and ABC.
I think
CBS.
I think
But
the
yeah,
thing
no, you're
that
right with the other ones.
the thing that works most with news is reading online. Like like watching news on the TV is just outdated. It gets you no real information. It's like propaganda, pretty
It's
much.
a little bit just like entertainment.
Boomers.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, freaking.
I mean, I like the news on TV, honestly, and I kind of want to be able to do that. But
boomers.
But I mean, it's not. I don't know. It's nice though. It's nice when it's like done, when it's given to you in a good way though. Because, but no, I agree. Kind of, I like the more in-depth news. You know, like when it's like on a station like BBC America, where they actually go more. They'll have like the investigations.
The
they
thing
have
is, online they publish specific topic specific videos which go way more in depth than any like cable newscast.
Yeah, well, like
European news is
regular
actually better.
I'm saying
Yeah, it is.
It
There's
is.
some-
European news is way better.
No, there are some great news organizations from America, Vice,
But
and
they're all
Axios.
independent. Like none of our
Yeah, they have
conglomerate
to be.
news sources are any good.
Yeah.
They all
They're
suck.
terrible. Yeah.
Besides,
Pretty much.
I actually think Bloomberg's like not biased. It's not really focused on politics though. It's
Yeah,
on the
Bloomberg's
financial market.
business focused.
New York Times and
That's why I don't.
Boston Globe can be biased, but I think they give like a pretty.
I think
pretty
New York Times is
biased
really good.
Dude, that's the
actually.
one
Yeah,
problem I
I
have
think
with
they
Trump.
go to
Trump
New
tries to
York.
go after the New York Times, but in my opinion, like throughout my life, I think New York Times is the best investigative journalism, like out of all the papers.
Yeah, the New York
No, I
Times
agree.
is really good stuff.
So like
I
when you go after the New York Times, you're just going after like common sense.
I
At
think
least,
their
agree.
website's a little outdated though. Their
They should be
website is
going
set
after-
up to be like a traditional newspaper. Like it looks like what a traditional newspaper would look like,
Yeah.
and that's how you navigate. But like in terms of modern websites, like it's just like that's not the way to go. Like
They should be going after Huffington Post. That's trash.
oh, dude, the Huffington Post is so bad. But
I
like,
don't really
so,
read
like,
the
so it's like
Huffington.
Infowars
BuzzFeed.
on the other side, like BuzzFeed, Infowars, like who?
yeah, but BuzzFeed isn't really news. BuzzFeed is like what hairstyle is in today.
That's more TMZ.
Like,
Yeah.
isn't that pathetic too?
But that's what BuzzFeed does. Like
A little
BuzzFeed
bit.
isn't actual news.
They try to be now. They try to be now, though. If you look at them sometimes.
It's just clickbait with their news. BuzzFeed is clickbait.
Yeah,
That's all it is.
That's
Ah.
kind of true.
I really only like a few news sources. I actually like The Economist too. I like anything that
Economist,
doesn't have like a biased tone to it, something that's pretty objectively centrist. Because I just don't like. I can't deal with either side anymore. I'm kind of just done with it. That's why I've been following, like
I agree.
local.
And it's nice to watch international news sometimes, like BBC or like France 24 or DW, like one of those, Al Jazeera, something like not something like Russia Today though. Not that's just state sponsored shit
I've
or like
never seen that.
TRT. Like
Okay.
RT. If you ever seen anything that's RT, that's Russia Today. Or
Oh.
TRT is the Turkish state sponsor. I know they have a lot of videos on YouTube and stuff, and it's often quite biased. But a lot of the
Don't
ones,
think I have.
yeah, there's a lot of good ones though, just to get like that other perspective, because it is true that American news, for the most part, that's the one thing CNN is good at. Is CNN does cover internationally pretty well, because mostly American news covers mostly just what like America,
Yeah.
like, especially like politics and especially presidential race or like the national Senate race. Nothing ever about state elections.
All right.
Agree.
So getting back on track here. So I want to do like a really cool book review right now because this book absolutely blew my mind. It was called Ranger Games, story of Alex Bloom, who became a private in the Army Rangers Special Forces, and a month after achieving his lifelong dream, like since he was a kid, he wanted to be an Army Ranger, and a month after being recruited as a Ranger, robs a bank in Washington State with his superior Tab. So Tabs and the Rangers are basically Rangers who are one level above privates. They've deployed and been promoted, and they've usually seen action on deployment. And then they come back to the Ranger base, and that's where they're like every Ranger trains on this base. It's the only place Rangers are. So it's just this book was wild because it's based on a true story, and the writer was the cousin of the Ranger who got arrested after like dreaming of being a Ranger ever since being a young kid. But the really interesting part of the book comes in when he recounts his training with the military, and then so basically it talks about the psychological way that the American military breaks down its soldiers to get them to be like they don't want you to think for yourself. Like you're given a task and you unquestioningly go do that. That's the goal of army training. And then moving on, the book gives a great history on like how psychology in the military kind of started. It all started after World War II. After World War II, even in times of peace, like psychologists and doctors were like thinking of ways like how to make more efficient soldiers, and like the US government starts contracting these guys to research and do work. So it's kind of weird how intertwined it all really is. Um, but yeah, and then another cool part of it was it talked about the special ops units that America has had, like task forces and the Rangers. Their training is absolutely insane. Like, very few people can even survive the initiation process. Like, people die in those initiation processes. It's pretty wild. And then the other really cool part was it takes a look at psychopaths and like how they perform in the military. Psychopaths are actually like ideal soldiers, and a lot of special ops soldiers end up being like undiagnosed psychopaths. It's pretty wild. Yeah.
Wait, what? How? Could you elaborate on why they're great soldiers?
Because they don't feel anything. They don't have a reason to question what they're being asked to
Yeah,
do.
but like, what? I don't know. I just feel
I
like
don't know. Would they
that
be
seems a little bit.
unstable?
Yeah. What about? Yeah. What
No,
about?
they're not that unstable. Think about it.
You mean
You've
they don't
gone through
feel anything?
military
What if they're
training.
committing a war crime?
I mean, yeah, but like regular soldiers who aren't psychopaths commit war
Yeah,
crimes
but that's
still.
not. We're trying to curb that. We're trying to have more ethical warfare. That even makes sense.
Are,
Like,
does
'cause
that
back in
even
the day,
make
people,
sense?
Bro, that's
back
not
in the day, bro. Back in the day, like before World War One, war was a lot classier and people had a lot more
war was
respect.
a lot classier,
Yes,
yeah.
What?
people had a lot
Hey!
more respect for each other.
I'd rather die of fucking tuberculosis behind a trench.
I said before World War One, dipshit. They didn't have trenches. I was
Before
saying they
World War
wouldn't fight
One?
on holidays and stuff, and they wouldn't fight
Oh,
during.
when they lined up and shot at each other with
No,
friggin'
not that
muskets,
long
is that
ago.
what
I'm
you're
talking
talking about?
about actually giving like not using chemical weapons, not using torture, like actually having ceasefires.
Oh
That's
please, torture has always been a part of war.
yeah, but there's been a lot of rules against it with certain, and it hasn't been
Yeah,
used in
but no one
specific.
follows them. It's the fog of war, dude.
Look up, yeah, but still, look it up. It's like before like chemical weapons and like a lot of the machinery got reduced. War was a lot more like there was a lot more like rules to it. Like people wouldn't fight on holidays and
Like there
stuff.
was a certain respect to the other people on the other side.
Yeah, exactly.
I just want to add in one more thing. Is it still recording? Oh, it's still
What's
recording.
that?
Perfect, it's back. All right, we can continue. All right,
All
we were
right.
talking about war and how dying of tuberculosis or
Yeah.
tuberculosis.
Yeah.
Alex was
Tuberculosis.
saying people used to be respectful in war, but I say like
That
due to a
psychopaths
lot
make good soldiers.
no, due to a lot of the psychiatric advances we made overall in the field of psychology, it's been that information is militarized as well in order to break everyone down. Like the whole purpose of military training is that you don't question anything. Like you're supposed to follow what you're told. Like it makes you like blank. And then
Yeah,
the
but you think
people
that's
who do
always a good idea?
special ops is even more hardcore. Like they do like depraved stuff to you when you're trying to become initiated into special forces.
What do they do to you?
Nothing.
Bro,
they
I
they
feel
mess
like
you
I
up,
don't know.
dude. Like they
So
barely feed you. They give you constant exercises. Like you're just like they wear you out. Like
yeah, but you really think that's the best thing to do?
who knows? But that's what our military
No, I
does
think what
do to
Alex
I
create
is
don't know if
trying to
that's
get
real
at
soldiers.
is the best thing to actually like strip your soldiers' personalities and like make them just follow orders. Like I think that desensitizes them for later
Well,
in life.
think
Like think
yeah,
about them
that's
even becoming police officers down the
Yeah,
line. Like
exactly.
are
That
those
sounds like
kind
the
of
best
personalities
life
the
ever.
kind of people you want interacting with the community?
well,
I mean,
that's the
I get it
beauty of
for
this book.
warfare.
This book opens your eyes to that. Like nothing I've seen in movies and stuff really gives as deep of a dive into the history and the training of military
Really,
as
not
this
even
book.
Saving Private Ryan.
Ah,
That
Jake's
was
favorite
exactly
war.
how the
so
military.
funny. Hey, that's a great movie.
It's
Yeah.
a good movie.
It's good. It's great.
great movies like Zero Dark 30 or Black Hawk Down.
It's
Those are
really
great
good.
movies.
Like
Or The
Captain
Hurt
America.
Locker. Catherine Bigelow is a great director. I kind of wonder, how does Catherine Bigelow get all the information she does for her movies? Like The Hurt Locker and Zero Dark 30, like some really classified shit went into those movies. Like, how'd she get this research?
She's got to be rubbing shoulders with someone in CIA.
Yeah, probably. Watch, now she's gonna disappear because we made the link, we made the connection.
Called her out.
The other cool part about Ranger games is so it's not only about the soldiers, it's about the family, the people who raised the kid who went and became a ranger. It's about he goes to Canada and interviews the family of the other ranger who convinced him. They talk to a teller, one of the tellers during the robbery, and her family as well. So it shows like how many lives were ruined from just one bank robbery. It's crazy. Like I watch movies and like TV shows, and I think bank robbery, like it's like there's the cops, the criminals, and but like you don't realize like the criminals' entire lives get ruined from doing that.
Yeah,
Like
because like
the
when
victims are so traumatized that like they lose their ability to work in certain cases. Like it just has devastating effects across a lot more people than we think about.
when has a bank robbery really ever been successful? Like I feel like usually they end up getting caught sooner. Or
Yeah.
The other
later.
thing is
It's not worth it.
like I remember
Yeah.
you mentioning the mind of how the guy who perpetrated the idea of committing the bank robbery outranked the dude who was actually told and given the orders to follow along and do it, and
Yeah.
like that also follows in like the spirit of like how these guys are desensitized and then they just follow orders if they're outranked.
Exactly.
And another point I want to add is like you shouldn't rob a bank, kids out there, only because like you know these bankers and these bank tellers are actually here to uplift your community and add value to the
Oh
economy.
yeah.
So,
They're
so
here
I
to
mean, why would
uplift
you
your
want to?
community.
Why would you want to tear down something that is?
I
Because
think
they
they're more
don't
there
know.
to put some chunk of changes in their pockets. I think that's what they're
No,
thinking.
no. That was just
Yeah.
a side note,
Never rob a
Uh,
bank. Just shoplift.
no,
You
just
know,
rob.
you know
You can
stores are
shoplift
getting
all
that
you
stuff
want.
for like a
Shoplifting
third.
is much cheaper, much more efficient.
Oh, that's what
It's
people
way
say.
more efficient if we're being honest.
It is way more efficient than people say. It hurts the businesses, but you know they're getting that stuff for like a third of the price that they're selling it for. So it really doesn't hurt them
Just
that
look
much.
on the tag. If it says like made in China, just take it. You're fine. You know,
Yeah.
they have
Or
for like
some
less
They're
than
small.
20.
definitely not paying full price.
No, there's no way they get like 5 for like the price you pay for one.
Yeah, I know. That's, if you go on like Alibaba, which is like a wholesaling site from China, you can get like super cheap things. Like I've seen like
Yeah,
neon
that's
signs
with
and like
clothes sites too, like Romwe or Shein. They sell like a lot of stuff that'll be like remarketed in other places.
yeah, it's crazy how much like people pay out here for like products that all they are branded and then resold on our markets. But it's
Yeah.
just there's an uptick in price, and it's not just a small uptick; it's like twice or triple what they paid to get it from China.
The thing is, with certain things, brand name does mean quality, but with a lot of
Yeah.
other things, it doesn't.
It doesn't, but that doesn't matter to them because they're still making money hand over fist.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, it might still actually be the same quality, but you don't know that it is because they just put the brand on it, and it won't be unmarked otherwise. Like you'll
I
be
bet
getting something
most
that's
things,
decent quality, but it'll just be unbranded, so they won't sell for as much.
most of
Oh
your
wait.
lower costing items probably are from China. Like if you looked around you and you like looked at what you had, most things are actually from China, or at least either like China, Taiwan. You know what I'm saying? Like some
Yeah,
country that's
A lot
outside
of
the U.S.
yeah.
with cheap labor.
A lot of
It's just
clothes
yeah,
are
no,
made
I'm
in
pretty sure you're
Bangladesh
right.
and Pakistan. Cheap labor.
yeah,
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's cheap labor.
cheap labor. It's all the cheap labor markets.
And then, so to, I'm kind of going, taking a few steps back here, but you guys asked, like, why does the military desensitize their soldiers to think that way? If you look at the actual research behind, like, World War One and World War Two, a lot of people didn't actually even fire their weapons. And a lot of them, when they did fire, they didn't even, like, they tried to avoid killing the human beings across from them. So all this training is to make soldiers desensitized so they do pull that trigger.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the goal.
But
It's
I
just
mean,
to
if
boost
you
that
remember
stat
our
line. Shots
conversation from
fired.
if you remember our conversation from before, that's a much more noble way of warfare.
Yeah.
I was
Oh,
making
but
fun of Alex.
I don't.
I was making fun of Alex. He was like, "Oh, but warfare was so noble back then." It was
I mean,
Yeah,
if you know
like no
your
one gives a
history,
fuck about
no one
nobility
cares.
anymore.
War,
bro.
dude. It's war.
yeah, that's why we have terrorism and war.
Dude, have you ever played COD? Kill
Yeah,
streak,
obviously.
burn. It's like after 9
I'm not
tactical
saying back,
dude.
just saying, dude, we got like soldiers shooting fucking
It's like
villages up. Like,
Moab, yes.
dude, remember that fucking guy who Trump, like, this soldier killed like a 14-year-old boy somewhere in like the Middle East, and Trump called him a war hero. That's the
Yeah.
kind of bullshit I'm trying to get rid of.
But I'm saying like these guys, these average like oftentimes really good guys are like they enlist in the military thinking it's a noble thing from childhood, and then it's just a really really harsh reality they have to wake up to. Like their minds, their entire personalities are just wiped blank,
Yeah,
and
I
then they
know.
got to manage on their own from there on out.
A lot of the funniest thing too is that like a lot of these guys go as like super deep seated conservatives, and then when they come back, they end up like smoking a ton of weed. Like I actually know a guy in New Hampshire who smokes like 2 or 3 joints a day because like his doctor prescribed it to him because for his PTSD. It's
Yeah.
like it's kind of ironic though because like they go over there, get desensitized, and then their brains are complete mush when they come back. They're just like completely different
Yeah,
individuals.
and to deal with the PTSD and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's
The
it's
one cool thing about that is creative problem solving. They do get that.
yeah, right.
I mean, you learn a lot of valuable skills, but at the same time, like at what cost, you know?
Definitely have some personality costs. And I can't even imagine what like you like. Imagine like when they hear specific noises. They always say like this the tickers are like specific noises in their day to day life, but like that must be crazy. Like if you're at a bowling alley and you hear like a ball like hit the pins or something, like,
Yeah, it could trigger something.
and it triggers something.
Yeah.
Like you
Or
gotta
fireworks will do a
insane.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine. That's terrifying.
What's scary about did you guys ever watch that video of the soldier in Afghanistan when he gets shot and he's on the hill shooting at the other hill? It was on YouTube for a while. It was
I've
it
seen
was
that.
crazy. Like so there's this group of I don't know if they were Marines or Army, but they're doing a patrol on a ridge and all of a sudden gunshots start going off. This soldier has a body cam like right here, and like all of a sudden they start taking fire. He takes a bullet and is on the ground, like shooting back at the ridge where the bullets are coming from. I couldn't see anything. You can't see like any people. Like that's warfare right now is super scary. Like a shot can just come out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's
They're
true.
trained to find that. Like they're trained to find reflections and like shadows and like
Yeah, and they have the heat seeking stuff
yeah.
too.
My
They have to,
eyesight's
like,
not that good.
they have to find movement where like normally a human eye would just see nothing.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
It's pretty crazy.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. But Ranger Games, really cool book, really informative, very emotional as
Who's
well.
it by?
Benjamin Bloom.
Okay.
Yeah. Or Ben Bloom, not Benjamin. Ben
Go
Bloom.
check Benji out.
So he's actually the cousin of the ranger that robbed the bank that went with his superior. That guy's name was Alex Bloom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Really
Where,
great
where
book.
where is he now?
So where it ended was Ben has become an author, and Alex wanted to open up a food truck. He was working like nightclub bouncer jobs and like bartending jobs, because he was a convicted felon, so he only did 6 months of in-house probation because the judge recognized like this is an amazing kid. Then the military fucked him up so bad, but yeah, so at the end of the book, Alex, the guy who robbed the place, wanted to start a food truck. I don't know how successful he was with that, but yeah,
That's cool. I like that
yeah.
ending.
There's a lot of twists and turns you wouldn't expect.
All right, are we gonna get into stock picks of the week?
Stock picks of the week, yeah. Do you want to go first? You can go.
Yeah, I'll
first.
go first. So, I actually joined like a hedge fund group. They're like smaller. It's like a 50 month or a $50 a month fee that you have to pay. But I've made like $200 or $300 since joining this month. And my first one is going to be, it's called NUGT is the symbol, so NUGT, and it's Daily Gold Miners. It's up from, where did it start? I'm just going to do the 5-day. So it was like, what at its low is hitting about 58. I have bought into the stock way before, though. I had actually had some stock I held on this one. So it's at 63 right now. I had a buy alert for 63, and usually when the hedge fund like recommends stocks, they only go up. I haven't had any experiences from the stocks I bought where they go down. So this is my stock pick of the week. I think it can only go up, so I'd probably buy like 20
Well, the
shares.
market's only gone up since you signed up for it, right?
Yeah, that's true too. They usually go mostly for commodities though, because a lot of
Yeah.
the times they're a lot more volatile. So if they're going one direction, they do it much quicker than like a normal stock would. It's like whatever
Okay.
they're paid.
That's pretty
So yeah,
cool.
NUGT is the one I would go with.
All right. So my pick of the week is Ericsson. Its stock symbol is ERIC, Eric. Right now it's trading at 9.35. Has a 49-cent dividend. 52-week high was $10.06. So this is one of my more like risky stocks. I'm basically hedging a bet on it that with the explosion of 5G as it comes within, I'm hoping by the end of this year to the end of next year, that this stock booms because they hold a lot of 5G patents that they're going to sell currently. So I don't know. I don't know where it's going to go. This is like pretty much the only stock I'm shaking on, but I think it'll be interesting to see. I'm excited to see what happens to it.
Absolutely, I think those are two good picks. I don't think they're going to lose money with either one stock, especially the way the market's looking right now. I don't think
Oh,
like if you
definitely
jump into
not.
the market, like odds are you're going to be making money. I haven't lost money like this year in the market.
Neither have I.
So I don't know. I think it's a good time to jump in. I think people often think it's not the right time for them, but like honestly, what they have to realize is every time is the right time. Like investors, like even when everything hits rock bottom, investors jump right back in. It's not like the market disappears.
When everything hits rock bottom, it's the best time to jump in.
Yeah, it is the best time to jump in too. We're not too far from the bottom, but I would also say we're like not very close to the bottom anymore.
We're
We're like
cruising up right
we're
now.
cruising. It is kind of weird, especially like with the whole pandemic. Like no one really cares anymore. I'm like, what's
Yeah.
going on?
I mean, everything's opening back up.
Yeah.
We gotta.
Yeah. No,
What really matters is the credit effect on the country. That'll tell us whether or not we're heading towards a
They're gonna
recession.
restrict credit. They're definitely gonna restrict
They
credit.
already have, but it's
Yeah.
a matter of how many people have already defaulted on like mortgages and loans that we're not hearing about, that we don't know about. Hopefully, it's not too many.
Well, they did put a stop. Like you can't. There was like a 2-month period where you couldn't collect mortgages. Like you couldn't actually force someone to pay you a mortgage. The bank couldn't. The only problem I think with that is going to be what if they try and collect those months afterwards? Like I don't know if there was actually specifics put into the legislation.
They probably
you can't charge people for those months afterwards after the fact.
It's banking.
That's the thing. They're probably going to still charge.
They're gonna go for it.
You're not going to give assets up for free for 2 month like period and then not try and collect on those debts. So I don't know.
The other thing is loans went down to like 1 or 2%. That's pretty much free money.
It was, but that was only trying to get the economy back on.
Yeah, to keep.
And let's be real, who was actually getting those loans? It's not like small businesses were really getting those loans. It was everyone in bed with Wall Street and the big banks.
Yeah,
They were all buying their.
You know why after every bailout plan, the market surged up? Because 98 cents of every one of those bailout dollars went to banks.
Yeah.
It didn't go to us.
It's like, what? But the banks do give the loans. But
That's
the
why
other thing is
invest my money.
You have to be in good standing with the bank to even get a loan. So it's like those low interest rates, you have to still kiss ass to the banks to even get one.
If you're in America and you're not investing, you're on the losing side of the equation.
You are, 100%. It's the easiest way to make money. Especially, and the other thing is you can be a poor man and you can still make money in investing. And like apps like Robinhood, everyone should own Robinhood. But it's a free app.
They're revolutionary apps.
They really are. I think
Like
Robinhood's the best app.
people used to have to pay a premium just to be able to get invested in stocks. Because of Robinhood and like 3 other apps, now every single brokerage firm offers a free trading. Like Fidelity's trading is now free.
Yeah, and Robinhood's the one that made that happen. It's like if
Yeah.
that didn't exist, there
Well,
would be no
there were
urgency.
2 others, I think. I
What
just
was
forget
there?
what they were called.
I know Ameritrade went free too, so you can trade on TD Ameritrade without any broker
Yeah,
fee.
because once Robinhood and that other one came along, they know they're going to lose everyone involved with them if they keep taking a broker's fee.
Being a broker is pretty much a dead industry anyway. There's no point.
It's going to be fully automated soon.
Yeah.
Within
I think
the next 5 to 10 years.
advisors, analysts, and portfolio managers and mutual fund managers are going to be all that's left because there's going to be no point of having a broker. Someone who just dictates deals. There's just no point. It's gone.
The other thing is, AI could affect a good amount of hedge funds. I don't think they'll all go away, but like some algorithms might be able to make money better than some shareholders feel that their fund is doing. You know?
Yeah, agreed.
Like hedge fund, like even the elite are gonna feel the effects.
Yeah, for sure. But everyone's gonna buy into the algorithm, so they're just all gonna end up making money in the end.
Yeah, exactly.
That they offer echelon of incomes.
Technology has been a great wealth democratization tool. You just gotta know how to use it.
Yeah, that's true. Those AI algorithms better be available to the public, because if they're not, we're talking like another like super wealthy to extreme poor scenario where the classes are always going to be super divided, but even worse than it currently is.
The only way classes have a way to fight back is the internet, man. You can make money in so many different ways online.
See, like, my thing is, I'm starting to turn my political views a little bit more towards the left, at least economically, only because I think, like, your lower classes do have the right to some social safety nets. Like, you should have a right to a dignified retirement, whether or not you made, like, 60K a year.
Well, yeah, Trump repealed Obamacare and still has yet to put anything in place. Everyone should have health care.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. As an American citizen, you should be able to have a few dignified rights that, like as it is in Europe, where you have health care, you have some form of retirement pension.
What absolutely blows my mind is that there are people who staunchly supported Trump, voted for him, who probably lost their health care, still have no alternative, and still staunchly support that same guy. Like, he just took away your ability to see a doctor. Like,
and not only that, now he's appointed Supreme Court justices, so now like a woman's right to choose is actually like on the chopping block.
Yeah, it's insane.
Upcoming.
Georgia and Texas have already made it illegal. Absolutely wild.
You guys do what you want. We're gonna do what we do down here.
No, it's fucked.
Down south, we value the Bible, family value.
I think I'm still more libertarian economically, but I think I've shifted a little bit more left when it comes to social safety nets. Like I think the government, especially in domestic spending, we spend so much on war and the military. I think we should spend less and spend more on policing too. I guess you're right.
We should spend more on education, infrastructure, social programs, but not too many. I think we should. I think I support like things like UBI. I think we should.
The issue is the main issue is that we talk about having all these solutions that are going to cost money, but no one in the government looks at which departments are we going to cut. Where are we like to make that dollar more efficient for the people? You have to cut bureaucratic jobs, and you have to cut
the TSA.
You have to cut agencies and jobs of some bureaucratic departments and get rid of some that are just outdated and don't do anything.
TSA,
that still just suck up money.
So
I actually wouldn't be opposed to the NSA.
I don't think NSA can get cut just because their cybersecurity network that they've developed is probably integral to the security of the nation.
They're probably listening to this podcast right now.
They could if they wanted to.
This is ridiculous. But no, Homeland and TSA can hit the
I think
gut.
ATF and Homeland, like
ATF,
CIA,
yeah.
ATF, Homeland, and DEA. I feel like the CIA, FBI, and NSA can do all the things that they're doing.
I agree. What about TSA though? You think they should still be there? I think security guards are fine.
I don't really get the point of TSA if we have
Yeah.
the NSA. Like if you have cyber monitoring,
Just
then
security.
But
that's
like,
a
what
lot
about
more.
at airports? Don't you think
That's what
TSA
I'm saying.
is-
The TSA's main job is flight security, but we can literally just have like a simple check by like security guards. We don't need the whole
Well,
like.
we could
You
still
don't
have
think
the
so?
TSA, but it
Don't
shouldn't
think it's
be as big
necessary.
as it is. I
Dude,
think
Uh,
the
they
reality
just have
shows.
been caught profiling people so many times. Plus, they
See,
like
that's the one
they shouldn't
problem
be
I actually
patting
have.
you down and shit to go and I don't know
Agreed. I
to
think
go
the
into a
metal
plane.
detectors pick them up anyway.
I
To be
think
Yeah,
we
honest.
could
exactly. Just
totally
walk
get.
through a metal detector like in government
That
buildings.
part's bullshit. You could probably cut some of the force right there, to be honest. But I still
they
think
have
like
too
the
much power.
baggage
Not even real
detectors and
power.
shit.
We
I
could totally
personally
get
don't
rid
like
of the FCC. What does the
Oh yeah,
FCC
that's
even do anymore?
it.
Like we have the
exactly.
internet. We have the internet. What is the
That's what
FCC
I'm
still?
always. I've said that for so long. I'm
We need to
anti.
get
Do
rid
they
of that.
still
We
need
need to get rid of the
internet?
SEC too. SEC needs to get gone too.
Yeah,
Security Exchange Commission. Yes,
yeah.
get rid of it.
We have the national. We have the Federal Reserves. Like,
Yeah.
why do we need an SEC as well? We have Department of Treasury and the Federal Reserve Bank set up. Like, I don't think we need the SEC.
I think actually I do actually think we need the SEC. I'm just trying to be the banker who says we don't need the SEC.
I'm just saying, like, if you stand staunchly behind creating like healthcare programs and educational programs, you got to be able to cut where money is being wasted within the government as well, which
I think
none of our
EPA
leaders seem to realize.
I think
None
we
of
need to
our leaders can
abolish.
recognize that.
Let's get rid of the EPA. Totally abolish it.
Our
Yeah, that's a
only
great
leader
idea.
that recognized that actually was Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton and Al Gore recognized that the government's dollar needs to be efficiently spent.
That was the
We're
last
we're
bipartisan
so behind on
administration
infrastructure
because
too, as a
Bill
first
Clinton
world country.
Bill
Yeah.
Clinton worked with Newt Gingrich in the House, and they passed more than any other like Democrat and Republican did together. That actually helped out the
Obama
country.
tried to, but
Well,
he
the
just got
thing is,
stonewalled every which way he turned.
he's black, and McConnell didn't like the fact that he was
Yeah,
black.
he's black, and Mitch McConnell was like, "I ain't gonna work with the black man."
That's exactly what Mitch McConnell was like too. I hate Mitch McConnell.
Fuck Mitch
He's
McConnell.
terrible.
I'm gonna make a cake that the man that guy or the day
You know,
that
why
man.
that guy
I
should
thought
be
you were
the
gonna say of
poster.
that man.
That guy should be the poster child for the cops that kill black people in the streets. Like,
But he is. He probably doesn't give a fuck. He's probably like,
He
oh,
doesn't-
he
we
definitely
find
doesn't.
some way to say we need to
Definitely
increase
does
funding
not.
for police.
Dude, when he was like talking about the second stimulus, he was like, "There's no way this is happening." He's like, "It's dead on arrival." He just like he's the grim reaper of every piece of use legislation.
Everybody's like, I'm the Grim Reaper of socialized healthcare. I was like, who the fuck says that?
The
Like,
fucking
this sounds-
goblin from the Senate
You know
chamber
who else
says
says that? You know who likes that he says that? His constituents, for some reason. Like,
Yeah.
what backwards freaking
Agreed.
just
All right.
backwards country.
I think we should go into the lessons of the week to end off the show. What do you guys think?
Lessons of the week. Yeah.
Lessons of the week.
All
I've got-
right. Who wants to go first?
Okay, actually, I do have one. Okay, I just thought of one. So when you hear about a situation amongst your friends, something that's happened to your friends and hasn't gone well, don't think about it, because if you by accident actually insert that problem into your life, you're gonna regret it. Because this has happened to me where I heard that I'll just say that two people that were dating in my friend group had an issue, and then I actually made that same issue pop up in my relationship by some dumb things that I had mentioned and I got angry about, and it actually just made me think that I was a moron because I should have taken it and learned from it instead of applying it into my own life.
You projected, huh?
Yeah, I did project. It was a bad idea.
Don't project.
I had to talk to B about the whole scenario, and he realized what a dumbass I was as well. That's my.
It's okay. I still supported you. I support
Hey,
you.
he's a good man.
I try.
You guys got one?
All right. I guess I can Give me a second here. My lesson of the week so far is that
Want me to go?
it's that, you know what? Here it is. Take advantage of your alone time right now. While everything's shut down, don't just sit on your ass. You have so much time in the day, and even though Netflix and Hulu are there, you can still spend like 8 hours a day watching all that, and you still have another like 4, 5 to 6 hours, depending on how long you stay up, to work out, read, cook something. Like there's just
Learn
so
something
much.
productive.
Yeah. Like for the podcast, I picking up with some graphic design tools, all free. That was fun. Uh, I've been integrating workouts, and then I just try to build on those every couple weeks. I make them more longer and more intense. So yeah, just
I
don't
agree.
waste your time alone. Use your time alone to grow for yourself. Like
I
find
ship
things you
that
like.
a lot.
Yeah.
All right. So my lesson of the week, I think, is gonna have to be all right. So just because someone disagrees with you on an issue, right, doesn't mean you should completely ignore what they have to say and just be like, "Don't talk to me, unfollow me," or something. I feel like that's deconstructive and goes against like a lot of what these movements are trying to teach you. I think you have to have a good, honest conversation with them and just try to see their side with it. And if
But
they
I'm
really
always
don't,
right.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it
what the
doesn't it
fuck are
works
you
better
talking
with some people than others. But I think no, I think it's okay to be like friendly with people who you don't agree with, unless it's something really extreme or something. I think there's usually a way you can kind of talk it out and at least try to see their side, or if you really think they're in the wrong and they may be in the wrong, try and convince them in a friendly way because this kind of whole hostile, like push them away culture, kind of cancel culture, I feel like breeds
Yeah.
more people to become hateful and isolated, you know?
It makes no sense. Like, how can you grow if you're not getting, like, if you can't respect
They just
someone
want
with
to bash
different
people.
views and opinions, how can you grow as a person?
That's what I'm saying. I always try, even if there's something I find absolutely ridiculous, I try to at least hear their side out and try
Yeah.
and convince them. I don't just be like, "Oh, go screw off," because that just encourages the people to be like, "Oh, well, I hate you too now."
I
My
mean,
other
I've
thing,
had,
I agree with him, but the thing is, like, the one nugget of this is like, there's a lot of gray in between. Like, a lot of people jump to either side, but like, the truth is always somewhere in the middle, where like,
yeah.
there's like kind of points to both sides, and if you can kind of find your reality and what it means to you, it's more important than just like having this very staunch view and only thinking that everyone else like on that other side is bad.
And the thing
That's
is,
kind of the
someone
problem.
someone being different from you, even if they are a bit extreme, like I have a friend who is like pretty opposing towards my views, but like we're like he was one of my closest friends in high school. So like it's like difference builds character. Like
Of
having
course.
people with difference in your life helps build
It makes you
character.
more
It doesn't.
tolerant.
Yeah.
That
And we've had
characteristic is
and
very modern.
I've had like physically animated disagreements with pretty much all my friends, these two included. And like we disagree on stuff, but like we still don't care. Like
Nah, I feel that.
That
yeah,
characteristic is just a moderate characteristic. It's
yeah.
just not an extremist. It's like you can see the other side of something. You have to
I mean,
almost like you have to see both sides of a coin to know where you land on something.
I agree. I think that's true in like I'd say like 95% of the time.
Yeah, agreed. Although there is some shit that's just like you just can't like when
There's a
people try to
few
defend it,
cases
you're like, what are you
where
talking
they're just
about?
like
yeah.
too,
But
Oh
those
yeah.
people are usually insane and they don't make up most
or
of the
just super
population.
like out of their minds. You just don't want to surround yourself with those people.
I think the reason why cancel culture is so prevalent with like social media is that even no matter how radical or crazy or out there your idea is, you'll find support to back it. And then once you get that support, if one person says something different, this entire base of support attacks that.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
It's a double-edged sword.
All
Yeah.
right, I think we're gonna call it there. That was Straight No Chaser, episode 1. Good job, boys. Have a wonderful night.
Thanks. You too.
Good job.
Peace.